almost 80 years, in my opinion, the only serious attempt at both peace and unification came in 1998 to 2000, 2 years in the midst of almost 80 years of division. In the 1990s, for 7 years, the U.S. Policy was dominated by two concerns. One was keeping North Korea free of nuclear weapons, and the other was anticipating North Korea's collapse. In 1995, John Deutsch, the CIA director, said that he told Congress that it's no longer a question of whether the North would collapse, but the question is only when. And within 48 hours, Kim Kwon-chin, who was the head of the North Korean military, retorted to Deutsch that it's no longer a question of whether there will be another Korean war. It's just a question of when. In these years, I realized that top officials in Washington had no idea who they were dealing with. They just didn't understand that in a crisis where North Korea might collapse, it would go down fighting. The change came in 1998 when Kim Dae-jung was inaugurated. I still remember being in the audience listening to him and realizing that he had completely transformed ROK policy toward the North. And he began working with the Clinton administration on engaging the North. And the results were many. 4 power talks on ending the armistice and replacing it with a peace agreement, the possibility of normalization between the U.S. and North Korea, William Perry visiting the North for very fruitful talks. I continued absolute freeze on North Korea's plutonium, which had been frozen since 1984, and a deal to indirectly buy out the North's missiles. If Bill Clinton would visit Pyongyang, that deal could be signed. I attended a conference in Seoul in December of 2000, and several of us met with President Kim in the Blue House after the conference was over. And as we were leaving, he took me aside and he said he thought Bill Clinton would still go to Pyongyang. That was about December 21st. I flew home, and in the morning I read in the New York Times that Clinton had decided not to go. The Supreme Court proceeded to give the 2000 election to George W. Bush, and he and his aides proceeded to torpedo the missile deal. On March 6, 2001, the New York Times did a full analysis, a full page report of the missile deal. And it was by Michael Gordon, their best international reporter. And on the same day, I happened to have lunch with William Perry, and he validated everything that was in Gordon's article, and said it was a tragedy that the Bush administration had not followed through with this deal. Bush went on to claim that the North had imported centrifuges to enrich uranium in addition to their plutonium. Here we are more than 20 years later, and there's never been any evidence that the North has an enriched uranium bomb. And by 2002, with his new preemptive strategy, Bush was targeting North Korea. Of course, he went ahead to invade Iraq and cause a huge mess there. The undeniable truth is that the American most responsible for the North developing atomic weapons, beginning with their first test in 2006, is President George W. Bush, or perhaps, if we're being realistic, is Vice President Dick Cheney and Defense Secretary Don Rumsfeld. Very few Americans know about this, and an even smaller number would agree with the truth of what I'm saying, but it is the truth. Today, North Korea is impregnable with a full arsenal of nuclear weapons and missiles. Someday the U.S. will have to accept that